Somalia to announce plans for first oil licensing round. Somalia will announce plans in December for its first ever oil and gas licensing round, its oil minister said on Tuesday, as the frontier market looks to attract new investment after decades of civil strife. At least 3 mortar bombs were fired last month at Mogadishu's international airport, the latest attack in a wave of violence that has afflicted the Horn of Africa nation since clan warlords overthrew a dictator in 1991. Today much of the fighting is between rival clans and an Islamist insurgency, with Al-Qaeda-aligned Al-Shabaab, which is seeking to topple the UN-backed government, launching attacks in Mogadishu and across the country. The Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources said the minister will announce in December when it plans to launch the bid process in 2020. "We are presenting up to 15 blocks," Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Abdirashid Mohammed Ahmed told Reuters on the sidelines of an African oil and gas conference in Cape Town. He said seismic data commissioned for the government was encouraging and indicated that the 15 blocks could contain around 30 billion barrels of oil. Ahmed emphasized the new blocks were far from the maritime boundary with Kenya that is currently the subject of a dispute at the International Court of Justice. He added that international naval blockades had almost totally eradicated offshore piracy at the former hotspot for maritime hijackings. Somalia was known before for piracy, terrorists, unrest, and all that, but the federal government of Somalia is doing its best to stabilize the country, Ahmed said. For the past decade or so there has not been one casualty of piracy, so offshore is safe to invest. He said new oil and gas investments should create more jobs, help prevent young people turning to crime and spread peace in the country. Somalia has a roadmap we can follow after we produce oil, so there will be no resource curse here in Somalia, he said, referring to a tendency among some resource-rich countries to suffer from economic stagnation. Ahmed said the president was expected to sign into law new petroleum legislation, currently before Parliament's upper house, before year-end. This would help pave the way for ExxonMobil and Shell to return to the country where they held legacy blocks from the 1990s. Last month the two companies paid $1.7 million owed to Somalia for leasing these offshore blocks, although operations there remain suspended. "Once all the legislation is done we hope they will come back soon," Ahmed said. Somalia approves new petroleum law. A new petroleum law aimed at regulating and attracting major oil companies to invest in Somalia's oil and gas acreage, has been approved by the upper house of Somalia's parliament. The new law, which still needs to be signed by Somalia's president, Mohammed Abdullahi Mohammed, before it comes into effect, would provide a legal framework for Somalia and create revenue sharing between the central government and states. Currently, Somalia does not produce any oil. However, seismic data has revealed potential for substantial offshore oil reserves that could transform the country's economy. This is a major step forward for Somalia and its people as the petroleum law is approved by the upper house and moves closer to completing its legislative process, said Somalia's Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Abdirashid Mohammed Ahmed. The Somali government hopes the petroleum law will help restore the confidence of big oil companies like ExxonMobil and Shell, who once held legacy blocks from the 1990s.